Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing audio here from Plume Park ahead of round 28. Match of the round in the National Premier League New South Wales men's competition.
Well, the clouds have finally parted and made way for a gorgeous wintry afternoon here on the Central Coast, allowing the Mariners to finally return to the comforts of home here at Pluham Park, and just in time too. It is match of the round here in round 28 of the NPL Men's New South Wales competition, as the Central Coast Mariners play host to St George City. Pete Pryor with you this afternoon to take you through all the action. Absolute pleasure to have your company, as it always is, wherever it is in the world you may be tuning in from. Plenty to talk about in terms of this fixture and what it means for both of these sides. But before we dive too far into it, of course, the team news is in. So let's take you through how each side lines up ahead of kickoff here at Pluham Park. No changes for Lucas Valela's starting 11, or in fact his named substitutes this afternoon to the side, which were victorious down at the Palace in Bosley Park at Marconi Stadium on Wednesday afternoon. He names the following starting 11, of course, in goal, number 40, Joel Wade. It'll be a back four of Harry Jablonski, Shumba Mutakui, Michael Paragali, of course, sporting the number 3 and the captain's armband for good measure, and of course Max Miller on the right. We expect to see Lawrence Taylor and Kai Schumacher in the engine room of that midfield. Noah Peacock will lead the line alongside Muginga and Pota, with the width injected this afternoon by Jai Rose and Ty McKibben. The bench for the host this afternoon made up of Jordan Small, Logan Sandbrook, Gus Reid, Flynn Richards, reserve goalkeeper Jaya Janovic, and of course Ahmed El Helu. Two changes for Manny Spanidakis' St George side as the whistle blows, and away we go here for the second last time of the season, as scheduled anyway at Pluham Park. Mariners getting us underway, kicking from left to right on your screens, and we'll take the opportunity to take you through that St George City lineup as well. Of course, two changes for Manny Spanidakis' side. One change enforced by the red card to Mark McNulty in last weekend's 1-1 draw with the Wanderers, as this has slipped into the channel and bursting into the area. And an early flashpoint here at Pluham Park. We're going to the spot inside 30 seconds. Well, there's been no shortage of drama and flashpoints between these two sides over the years, and we've had to wait less than half a minute to get our first one here at Pluham. It was a wonderful ball in from Shuriaga. Found the on-rushing Jesse Forti, and City with a chance to go ahead from the spot. It's from the spot where the Mariners
Scored the only goal of the game against Marconi on Wednesday evening. Joel Wade now has a massive task on his hands. You can feel the tension in the air here at Pluham Park as a hush falls over the grandstand. And it goes wide. Louis Curry, the former Mariner, has dragged the effort wide of Wade's left hand upright. Wade went the right way, and I fancy he may have even had it covered as well, you know. And we've got two massive talking points inside the opening 90 seconds here at Pluham. Football, hey? Oh, Louis Curry, as we said, the former Mariner himself. Chance for his third goal of the season, just dragged. Unbelievable. What a let-off for the Central Coast as well. Picked up by Jablonski there. And you know what, amidst it all, we still haven't had the time to take you through the St George starting 11. Of course, in goal, Jack Kenny. Number 4, Solomon John Monaghan Viker. Number 5, another former Central Coast Mariner as well, returning to Australia, and Lewis Michio. The 7, Levi Shuriaga. 8, Dom Cox. 15, Nathan Grimaldi. 18, Gonzalo Agrelos. 19, who won the penalty, Jesse Forti. 23, Dakota Askew. 25, Brody Clarkson. And as we said, 33, Lewis Curry. Mark McNulty unavailable through suspension following his red card in last weekend's 1-1 draw with the Wanderers. And Paolo Mitri drops to the bench. In come Don Cox and Levi Shuriaga. As Askew. Well, it's an interesting sort of back pass up from Dakota Askew. Does find its way eventually all the way back to Jack Kenny, who will send it long. Had Lewis Michio interested, but into touch it will go under the watchful eye of Max Miller. So much at stake for both of these sides as well, of course. At the top of the day, St George City found themselves 7 points outside the top 6 as Mpota does well to charge down the clearance from Monaghan Viker. Still going here, Mpota. St George City simply need a win. Anything other than that, and their admittedly faint finals hopes would be extinguished. In a cruel twist of fate as well for the Mariners to be able to extinguish those finals hopes, being that this is a replay of the 2022 League One Men's Grand Final. St George City victorious on the day against the Mariners, as here's Shuriaga, little reverse pass for Forti. Jablonski matching him stride for stride and turning it behind for a corner. It's a fixture where so often we just see this settled by the odd goal, whether it's 1-0 or 2-1 or 3-2 or even 4-3 as well. 13 times these sides have met on 7 occasions, settled by just the 1 goal. Or 1 goal margin, I should say. Variation on the corner as it's played short to Forti. Alternate angle for the cross here now. It's angled in towards the head of Shuriaga. St George half-heartedly appealing for a handball there. Nothing doing as they go back and reload through Askew, and now Curry. Shifts one way and the other. Cross is pulled into the area along the deck for Agrelos. Shut down immediately, and behind it goes for another St George corner. There was just the 1 goal in it last time these two sides met as well, of course, earlier in the season down at Penshurst Park. 3-2, that one finished in favour of St George City. And if we go back and take you through some of the other meetings between these two sides, you may notice a fairly common theme emerging. And that is, well, spoiler alert, the Central Coast Mariners have never actually beaten St George City. The corner bounces around everywhere. It's a little bit chaotic in the centre of the area. Agrelos now. Just looks to isolate his defender, and Curry will wrap around him. Curry going nowhere fast under the challenge of Jai Rose. He's able to dig it out though. Clarkson now works it into Michio. It was behind Shuriaga initially, who just flicked his boot out at it. Wasn't able to make any real sort of meaningful contact though, and for the Mariners, really, it's all hands on deck here. They've been under the pump for the opening exchanges of this one. They've got another corner to deal with here as well. The Coast, big shout of keeper from Wade, who gets a good strong paw to it. Behind it goes for already the umpteenth St George City corner. Just about everyone in the area as well for St George City as it's whipped in near post. Max Miller it will be to turn it behind again. And again we go to the corner. Near post delivery again. And again, corner number 6 of the afternoon already, with just 8 or so minutes on the clock here at Plume. Well, if you are just joining us here on the Football New South Wales channels, absolute pleasure to have your company here in Match of the Round between the Mariners and St George City. St George went to the spot inside 30 seconds, but Lewis Curry just dragged it wide. Deadlock yet to be broken. St George with a series of corners and nearly profiting as well, as it just flashes agonisingly across the face of goal. It just needed someone to really prod it home. That's as close as they've come, including when they went to the spot earlier. Getting a look at the replay. No one just attacking that back post area, which was left totally vacant. The Mariners survive and now work their way over halfway. Good strength on display from Taylor against Clarkson, who has Rose supporting, who looks to invert here. Jablonski to swing it in. Now it's Miller on a foray into the area. Repelled initially. McKibben to retrieve. Jablonski it is now, forced backwards and putting Mutakui under a little bit of pressure, but cooler heads prevail there. That's composure beyond his young years from Shumba Mutakui. And here's Mpota now shifting back onto his left. Looking for the supporting run of Rose. It's a little too far away ahead of Rose and allows Askew to pick it back up. St George survive that attempted raid, and now Michio looks to hoist it into the area. He might get another go at it here as well. Mid-season signing, of course, as we said, Lewis Michio returning to Australia. Spent some time at the Mariners Academy before a foray around the United Kingdom. Spell it Sloughtown, and of course Kidderminster Harriers. Well and truly capable of scoring a banger as well. Ever present since his mid-season move as well. Miller, who has the beating of Michio now, but not of Nathan Grimaldi, who stretches to try and prevent the throw-in, stretching in vain. Well, consternation aplenty on that near touchline as to exactly which direction the throw-in should be awarded, who had the final touch. After a moment's consideration, the linesperson saying final touch off a Mariner. Well, if there's something else that we know about this fixture as well, is that it more often than not results in goals, and no shortage of late goals as well, and late drama between these sides. Oh, that's a wonderful looking turn from Rose now, and looks to release Poser on the edge of the area, who just got himself tangled up. As he looked to pull the trigger there, Muginga Mpota maybe just lost his bearings somewhat. He was the difference, of course, on Wednesday evening between the Mariners and Marconi, from the penalty spot himself as well. Here is Mpota. Has Monahan Vaika for company. Third goal of the season on Wednesday evening from Mpota. Could he be the key for the Mariners today? Taylor. His opposite number 23, and Askew able to hook it clear over his shoulder. McKibben unable to retain it, and St George, this is where they can be dangerous in transition. Well, they were initially looking to break quickly, but Agrelos it is to just slow it down, really, allowing the Mariners to get back and get their shape. Try and occupy those passing lanes. Over the top it goes in the direction of Foti. Now Askew. Cox just gives it back to Askew. They go all the way back to halfway. And under quite a deal of pressure, and that is a very agricultural challenge at best from Nathan Grimaldi. Lawrence Taylor it was who had Grimaldi tangled in, not seemingly. Birthday coming up in a couple of weeks, of course, for Nathan Grimaldi, and that's perhaps not the card that he may have been expecting. Third yellow card of the season for the former Jet as well. Signed for St George City this year. Just about ever present in the matchday squads as well. Lawrence Taylor back to his feet in good signs, and little thumbs up there as well from Taylor in the direction of Max Miller, so good to see he's back up and about and fighting fit. Perhaps underrated player, Lawrence Taylor, in some circles, I feel. Player who really gets on with it in the middle of the park, quietly, unassumingly going about his business. Here's Peacock on the edge of the area. Sighter from Peacock, well, may have perhaps hoped for better from himself on that occasion. A little wave of apology, maybe to those behind the goal lining up at the canteen, and then a wave of apology to his teammates as well from Peacock. Second start of the season for Noah Peacock. One goal so far since his move up the F3 against the other St George, of course, St George FC, the Saints. Lewis Michio perhaps it could be described as none too impressed at the awarding of the throw-in for the Central Coast Mariners there. Hoisted back in the direction of Mpota, who has Grimaldi all over him. Legally so, though. Here's Peacock now. Grimaldi does well to steal in there before Peacock could advance any further. Now it's Forti looking to inverse from the wide area. They'll switch the point of attack now to this near touchline. Mitchell. Agrelos. And Clarkson. Worked into the area nicely to Curry, but all avenues blocked off. Agrelos just left it a long ways away from Michio, allowing Mpota to steal in, and then Brodie Clarkson putting paid to any further advance from Mpota. No shortage of feeling in this one inside the opening 17 or so minutes here at Plume, as we'd perhaps expect as well. Both sides acutely aware of what's at stake, but both sides, of course, with a bit of history as well, which might lean into a spark as well. Long ball over the top in the direction of Shiriaga. Agrelos couldn't bring it under his spell, though. Joe will send it straight back forwards. Little back heel from Agrelos. Curry slaloms past 1 and 2 and clipped towards the penalty spot. Arriving at the top of the box is Askew. Now Clarkson will strike first time. Never really looked likely, though, off the left boot of Brodie Clarkson. It's a bit of a half-hearted wave of the left boot at it, really, from Brodie Clarkson. Never really struck true. Wade, Jablonski now. His ball forwards. Taking a touch off the legs of Askew and into touch. And Porter will look to flick it on in the direction of Peacock, but hooked clear. Now Forti trying to escape the attention of Rose, who held him up well enough, allowing Mpota to drop back in and take it off the toe, and then Rose beats 1 and 2 and then is upended on that far touchline as he looked to cut inside, as he so often wants to do. It's an absolute handful for defenders is young Jai Rose. It was his efforts as well that really won the Mariners back possession there, and now they've got a chance to hoist it into the area as well. Jablonski it will be to send it up into the afternoon sky, teasing and curling towards the head of Paragali. Nodded back in towards Mutakoi and then repelled, but only as far as Schumacher, who will send it straight back in. Monahan Vaika will win it ahead of Mpota, and then Cox will look to release Forti on that far touchline. Here's Cox again. That's a very good challenge, though, to win it off the toe of Cox from Rose, who will get the pass back from McKibben. And now Mpota has Monahan Vaika a little bit isolated out there, but Monahan Vaika is an excellent one-on-one defender in all fairness as well. Able to steal in with relative ease. Win it off the toe of Muginga Mpota. Who's dangerous up the other end of the pitch as well last week was Solomon John Monahan Vaika. Scored what could yet prove to be a fairly crucial equaliser against the Wanderers Academy in that 1-1 draw. Mathematically still able to reach the top 6, of course, St George Sissy. They're a side that absolutely won't give up until it's well and truly all said and done. which, as we said, a result for the Mariners today could well and truly be that's all she wrote for their finals hopes in terms of St George. But the 3 points, of course, crucial for the Mariners in terms of their bid, their hopes of survival. McKibben, wonderful defending again. Good strength from the number 12 to win it and now advance over halfway. Left it a bit short of Lawrence Taylor, though. Shuriaga weaving his way straight into trouble. And, well, that's a bit of a puzzle for Wade to figure out. But turns out he seems to be quite good at puzzles. Simply bringing that under his spell. And then inviting the press forward and just clipping it out to this near touchline for Miller, who will nod it forward towards Peacock. It's a long way short of Peacock, though. Well, a real Super Sunday of football as well, of course, across the league this afternoon in round 28 here at Plume Park. This is, of course, match of the round between the Mariners and St George City, as Kenny's clearance goes straight into the back of Peacock, who didn't know much about it. But then Taylor able to steal in and slalom forward and look to link up with Mpota. I think it was Askew with the crucial final touch. It's all a little bit chaotic there on the edge of that St George penalty area, if only for a moment. 3 games in action elsewhere, of course, across the league this afternoon. And we will look to keep you updated as each of those tick on. Having just kicked off at Lambert Park a few minutes ago, Blacktown City in action against the Wanderers Youth. Or Wanderers Academy, I should say, as that's a wonderful ball from Paragali to find Rose in a little pocket of space momentarily. Rose towards Mpota! Just a little flick out there from Muginga Mpota to try and guide it towards goal. Kenny watched it all the way and plucked it out of the sky. Tidy ball from Jai Rose, though, to find Mpota. What about the initial pass from Paragali, though? Here's Michio trying to show off his range of passing. That is telegraphed by Paragali. Now, McKibben. Rose. Felt he had his legs taken away by Cox, but on we go. As we said, those other 3 games, Blacktown against the Wanderers, currently 0-0. Marconi against Manly, also 0-0. Lambert Park, Apia currently leads Sutherland in good news for the Central Coast Mariners by 1-0. As Michio just looks to lob that over the top towards Agrelos, who will hoist it towards the back post and all the way behind. A big day at Plume Park as well for the Central Coast Mariners, of course. Match of the round, as we have said a couple of times now, here in the New South Wales NPL men's competition. But also later this afternoon at 5 o'clock, the Central Coast Mariners League One women in action in match of the round themselves against Marconi. That one, of course, brought to you live on the Football New South Wales YouTube channels. Paragali. Little clip over the top, and that's a late challenge there from Shuriaga as well after the pass had been played. Meanwhile, on we go with Mpota. Paragali's back to his feet. Shuriaga offering a hand of apology as the ball is swung in, straight into the breadbasket of Kenny. Paragali is back up and about, but not moving freely. And I'll tell you what, Shuriaga wants it on the halfway line because he knows he's only got Michael Paragali on one leg to contend with right now. He's going to try and run this off, Captain Paragali. He's a tough customer, of course. But he's going to require some treatment here indeed. That's not what the Mariners want. Michael Paragali was absolutely captain fantastic, well and truly on Wednesday night against Marconi. Certainly my player of the match. He's been leading by example. and he's been an outstanding contributor, of course, to the Mariners' late season form. We didn't really delve too far into it, but they've only lost one of their last 8 matches after losing 14 or so of the opening 20. Michael Paragali was, of course, the inspiration behind the Mariners' comeback against St George FC as well a few rounds ago here at Plume. Found themselves 2-0 down oh so early. Michael Paragali with a brace as well, not just leading from the back but also leading from the front. He's back up and about. He will have to leave the field for the time being as he has received treatments. Seems to be okay and moving freely enough now, which is great news for the Central Coast Mariners, but in not so great news, St George again on the attack here as it's hoisted in towards Michio. Max Miller gets there first. The strike will come from Clarkson. Dancing feet from Curry. And emerging with it, slaloming forward, is Taylor. Miller able to get it out from under his feet and clear it over halfway. Only as far as Grimaldi though. Monahan Vaker. Michio's got a handy pocket of space on this near touch line, and now he's got Miller a bit isolated, and now he's got support in Aguelos. Clarkson, they'll just go back and reload, recycle with Grimaldi. Looking to open up the points of attack for Askew, and Rose telegraphs it and looks to release Peacock, and he immediately shepherded back to Kenny by Grimaldi. And these two sides just trading punch and counter punch at the moment in terms of those intended balls into the channel. Well, we mentioned, of course, Apia leading Sutherland, which is big news for the Mariners in terms of that relegation dogfight. Also, a good piece of news for the Mariners was that Sydney United victorious over Mount Druitt yesterday, which was not good news at all for St George. But they can only really control what they can control, and they're looking to take control here as Agrelos back heels for Michio. Nice little pass there for Corey. Just lets it run away from him, and Schumacher will hook it clear. Bit of miscommunication, perhaps, between Monahan Vaker and Grimaldi. They get away with it, and here's Cox. Cox. Wide it goes for Askew. Well, I'm not sure if you quite heard that over the effects mic, but Dakota Askew, none too pleased with his delivery. Just about through the opening 30 minutes or so here at Plume in round 28. If you are just joining us on the Football New South Wales channels, pleasure to have your company, of course. Pete Pryor with you. Still deadlocked. St George, of course, went to the spot in the opening 30 seconds. Lewis Curry's efforts dragged wide. Muginga and Porta perhaps has had the best opportunity of the half for the hosts. Comfortably saved by Kenny, and now it's McKibben advancing over halfway for the Mariners. It's a little bit behind Miller, but comfortable enough for the Mariners fullback to pick up, and now he's got green grass ahead of him to stride into, and has Schumacher behind him providing support. They'll just look to be a bit patient in possession here now as Mutakoyi, as we so often see, striding forward from the heart of defence. Cox will take it off the toe of Rose though. Agrelos. Michio now. Plenty of space in front of him. And Agrelos as well. One-on-one with Miller, and Miller not diving in. Outstretched leg to just block the cross of Gonzalo Agrelos. Behind it goes. As we said last time these two sides met down at Penshurst Park, did finish 3-2 in favour of St George City. None of the players who scored on that evening in either side starting 11. In fact, only Paolo Mitri on the bench for St George as this is swung in again. Repelled by Paragali, only as far as Aguelos, and now Clarkson, who's remained, Askew, my apologies, has remained wide. Cross doesn't beat the first defender though. Clarkson, Aguelos, Cox, all the way back to Nathan Grimaldi. Michio, ball into the half space again for Aguelos. I love that little run into the channel there. Ball across the face. And Pota drawing the linesperson's flag on this near touchline. It looked tight. Maybe just going a second or so early there, Muginga and Pota. There were some little pockets of space opening up, little holes appearing, if only for a moment, in that St George defence. Miller. Miller again now. Forced backwards to Paragali, who's under a little bit of pressure, but pressure? What pressure, he says. Now Rose, great feat to take him away from Michio, and then is double teamed by a combination of Clarkson and Curry. Schumacher rising to bring it down on his chest. Rose able to unlock the avenue there for Miller, who swings in the cross and the header down into the turf from Jablonski, flashing just wide. And they're getting closer and closer here, the Central Coast, with each opportunity. Wonderful ball. Again, first time delivery whipped in there from Max Miller. Jablonski, it was arriving so late and just stole body position on his defender. Still looking for his first grade goal, Harry Jablonski, or his first grade goal, I should say. Has a few in the 20s set up this season. It's been his delivery, really, though, that's caused no end of headaches for oppositions. We go back again, of course, to that match against St George FC here a few weeks ago. Mariners scoring 3 of their 4 on the afternoon from set pieces. So thanks in no small part to the wicked delivery of Harry Jablonski, and of course Jai Rose as well. Miller hoists it back in towards Peacock, who gets his head to it first. Cox gets there second. I'll get my words out eventually. Now Askew. Oh, that's smart from Jablonski. Askew gets there the second bite, and well, we come back for the free kick. The referee has his whistle to his mouth. It looked late from Askew, but it did just look like a footballing challenge. I'm just waiting to see if we can get a replay on the monitor here from our vantage position at Plume. Askew certainly got to the ball first. There weren't any studs raised or anything. But in bad news for the Mariners, the player that we were just lauding, of course, there in Harry Jablonski, remains down. Well, it's been another case of the Mariners really growing into the game as the minutes tick by. We saw that in a big way down at Marconi on Wednesday night. It was all Marconi for the opening 10 or 15 minutes or so. The Mariners grew in stature and grew in confidence as the game progressed. And got out of there with all 3 points as well. Perhaps the shock of the week, that one, but I'm sure it won't shock all too many of those who may wear yellow and navy tinted glasses. They've taken some impressive sort of scalps over the last few weeks. Of course, the likes of Sydney United doing the double over them this season. A point as well down at Rockdale the other week, where the Mariners would feel may have been a case of 2 points dropped, really. 3 points against title hopefuls in Marconi. They've got a massive test as well next weekend, away to Spirits FC. Spirits FC could potentially even confirm their premiership, but the test in front of them at the moment is that of St George City, fighting for any potential finals hopes. A side which the Mariners have never beaten. A side on the attack here as well through Michio, who's halted by Schumacher. And then Forte is halted by Jablonski. And Askew will slip. And Mpota will win it back. Clarkson, again looking for that big raking crossfield ball, and it's a long way behind Jesse Forte. The St George bench just asking for a little bit more from those out there at the moment. Monahan Vaika sends it forward with urgency. Corey back on halfway. And again, they look to open up the pitch on this near touchline with Mitchell. Wants to try and drive around the outside of Rose. Again, Rose matched him all the way. Here's Aguelos. Little flick inside for Corey. What's building here for City? Little back heel now. Corey twisting and turning and trying to fashion an opening for the cross, which he does. Joel Wade, it's all too close to the Mariners gloveman there, and that's comfortable as you like. Miller looking to use the full width of the pitch here. Just patience here, the Mariners. Paragali again, back to Wade. Wade holds it. Now, Mutakui. Again, striding forward over halfway. Things you love to see. This is a marauding sort of run from Shumba Mutakui. Now weaving his way inside is Taylor. Arriving is Miller. It all closed down around them though, and Paragali again has a puzzle to figure out, and cool as you like. There's a little ball forward there to find McKibben, who tries to juggle his way forward and is eventually pulled down there by Lewis Curry. Well, a couple of former Mariners involved today, of course, for St George. As we said, Lewis Michio returning to the country in the mid-season window. Lewis Curry as well, former Central Coast Mariner himself. Peter Kikeris as well, another mid-season signing for St George City. Starts on the bench this afternoon. I'm sure he'd dearly love to have some sort of say in the final outcome against his former employer. As Rose swings it in. Schumacher. Over the top it goes for Mutakui, who is offside. He does have one goal for the season, Shumba Mutakui. Was originally credited to Rose, but the goal review panel convening, noting that Shumba Mutakui's ferocious effort crashed in and off the underside of the crossbar. Linesperson flag on this near touchline though, putting paid to that. by that, I mean, of course, any ideas of a second goal of the season. Still plenty of time, though, as Paragali, that was some kick from Kenny. Just about going kick to kick with the Mariners custodian in Wade, but for the timely header of Michael Paragali. Perhaps a header he had to make as well, as there were plenty of red shirts half interested. Here's Clarkson trying to wriggle free. And pops out here for Rose, who just lays it off for Miller, who looks to return it. It's just a little too way ahead of Rose. A little too far ahead of Rose, I should say. As we tick into the final few minutes of the first stanza here at Plume. And we can look to bring you an update from elsewhere, as we promised, of course, at Lambert Park. There's been a second goal for Apia Leichhardt, who currently leads Sutherland by 2-0. Back to live action here as St George perhaps looking to put the screws to the Mariners. The strike was fairly audacious from that sort of range, and in the kind of form that Joel Wade is in, it would take certainly something special to beat him from there, and that wasn't quite it. Paragali clipped over the top for Mpota, who seemingly tried to roll Grimaldi there. Mutakoye took a couple of touches to bring it under his spell, but able to slalom past a couple of challenges there. And there's a coming together as well between Clarkson and Mutakoye as Mutakoye released the ball. And both players coming off a bit worse for wear after that. Right in front of our commentary position here. Just a coming together between the two players, nothing more. As the St George physio is waved on, Shumba Mutakoye makes his way back to his feet under his own head of steam. Which is good news for the Mariners. Inside the final 90 seconds of the regulation, first 45 here at Plume Park, as now Brodie Clarkson makes his way back to his feet as well. In good news for St George, albeit he is moving very gingerly indeed. Thumbs up from the physio, though, is a good sign. So City temporarily at least down to 10. The Mariners retain their full complement of 11. As City return to theirs as well. Mutakoye moving freely enough now. Jablonski. Taylor, has the beating of his opposite number 23 there in Askew. Very nicely indeed. Now Jablonski to hoist it in towards Peacock. Miller will strike, and Miller will concede the free kick, and perhaps a yellow card for his sins as well indeed. Well, few complaints there from young Max Miller for the concession of the yellow cards. A few questions being asked in the crowd here. Was a little bit late actually getting a look at the replay on the monitor. Yep, fairly regulation one to give. As the board goes up on that far touchline, indicating 3 minutes of time to be added on as we tick into the final seconds, or tick over the first 45 here, as Wade just plucks it off the head of Shiriaga. It hasn't been necessarily a vintage performance. Perhaps the sense of occasion, the tension, the understanding of the stakes, as Mutakoye has his legs taken away from him on the far touchline. The understanding of how high the stakes are for each side, maybe playing a factor. Certainly something simmering away beneath the surface, though, here As we said, a fixture that has a bit of history to it, a bit of spice, a bit of feeling. The two sides only met for the first time back in 2019. And have met at least once every season since then. As Rose will strike from a long way out. It's immediately blocked off by Clarkson. A little reverse pass here to find Jablonski. Well, it won't reach Jablonski though, because Monahan Vajka gets body position. And then Jablonski forced to just really prod it into touch. We're about halfway through that 3 minutes of added time. As we said, a fixture where so often it's just settled by a margin of just a single goal. And that's not to say that it's been all 1-0s. In fact, 1-0's a very uncommon scoreline between these sides. It's more often your 2-1s, your 3-2s, and even your 4-3s. And it's a fixture which so often sees late drama as well. No shortage of goals scored after the 80th and even after the 90th minute between these two sides. In fact, the semi-final in 2022 between these two sides in the League One men's competition, the deadlock wasn't broken until the 92nd minute. Thanks to Jacob Kresnar, as Max Miller looks to invert. And now Schumacher, perhaps one last roll of the dice here for the Mariners for the half. Good looking ball for Taylor, clipped in towards Rose, nodded back and nodded down to Miller. Something cooking here for Peacock perhaps. Striking is Schumacher. It's chaos on the edge of the area before City finally able to dig it clear. And that will indeed be the final action of the first 45 here at Pluim Park. What a way to end it as well. I'm sure the second half will most likely pick up where the first half left off. Still deadlocked here in round 28, match of the round between the Mariners and St George City. St George had the opportunity inside 30 seconds from the spot. Dragged wide. The Mariners have gone close on a couple of occasions through Muginga and Porter and Harrison Jablonski. But as it currently stands, it's the Central Coast Mariners 0, St George City 0. We're off for a short break here on the coast, but don't go anywhere. Make sure that you join us for the second half in about 15 or so minutes' time. A very, very warm welcome indeed back to Pluim Park here on the Central Coast in leafy Lisarow for round 28 between the Central Coast Mariners and St George City. Still deadlocked at the interval. An early flashpoint inside 30 seconds with St George going to the spot, but Lewis Curry's efforts dragged wide. The Mariners went close through Mpota and also Jablonski. But still, no goals to show as St George City get us underway for the second half here at Pluim. Looks like a change at half-time as well for Lucas Valela's side. Jordan Small into the fray and Noah Peacock being withdrawn. Just his second start of the season. Noah Peacock perhaps feeling a little bit of fatigue as well. Short turnaround after the game down in Marconi on Wednesday night for the Central Coast Mariners as someone's just flicked the switch on the lights. Seeing those towers now beam down over us here as the Mariners look to perhaps flip the script and rewrite history somewhat against a side they've never beaten. Taylor has his legs taken away from him right in front of our vantage position here by Monahan Vaika. He's keen to get things back on the move quickly as well, giving Mpota something to chase. It's comfortably cleared up by Grimaldi, and then Monahan Vaika will hoist it forwards in the direction of 40. Motokoye gets there first. Jablonski plays it over his shoulder. Schumacher, though, only finding the touchline. Little triangles forming there and nice little combinations interplay between Monahan Vaika and Askew and Clarkson. Here's Shuriaga just rolling his foot over the ball, and now Curry gives it back to Shuriaga, who bears down on goal here, has a couple of yellow shirts immediately surround him in the form of Paragali and Small. First corner of the second half, going the way of the travelling St George City. Well, they certainly won the corner count in the first half, that's for certain. Variation on the corner here as well, as it is eventually clipped in and repelled by Jordan Small. And Small now using his head to release McKibben on the far touchline. Forced just to hold it up and go back for Miller. Schumacher in turn holding it up and going back to Motokoye. The Mariners patient now. Paragali. There's Miller. Into the half space for Rose. Grimaldi first on scene to mop up. Corey was watching Motokoye all the way. Motokoye holds it up and spins and finds McKibben with a handy little pocket of space right on halfway. Paragali looking to release Miller. It will be a corner for the Mariners, a rare corner. Final touch there off Nathan Grimaldi. And we'll use the break in play to bring you some updates from elsewhere as well. Well, there's not really all too much to report really at Marconi. Still goalless between Marconi and Manly. Still 2-0 between Apia and Sutherland in favour of Apia. and half-time at London Stadium between Blacktown City and the Wanderers. Still goalless there as well. Interestingly, the Wanderers bringing down quite a number of their A-League players in their bid for survival as well. Now, this is an interesting sort of variation on the corner, one from the training ground perhaps. Dinked in back towards Rose. City appealing for an offside, which is never going to come. Now Rose burns around the outside of 1 and 2 and wins the corner again. Yeah, that Wanderers starting 11 this afternoon, including the likes of Aidan Hammond, former Mariner himself as well, and Oscar Priestman, as well as Aidan Simmons. Throwing absolutely everything at their bid for survival. The Mariners continuing their trust in youth, and it's been paying dividends as this is swung in towards the head of Mutakoi. Knotted down, blocked by the legs of Kenny. It nearly squirmed through the legs of Jack Kenny there as well. Mutakoi was just that close to his second of the season. And we mentioned at the end of the first half, of course, how the Mariners have been growing into this match and growing in confidence and stature as well as the minutes tick by. That will give them a boost, I'm sure. Is Schumacher, has he kept this in play? He hasn't. Askew hoists it back into play. Schumacher wins that fairly comfortably aerially. Taken off the toe of Lawrence Taylor by Clarkson. Straight into touch though. Jablonski hoists it forwards. Schumacher, he's just let Cox steal in there and take a touch to get around him. Rose will hold it up though, bring Cox down. Cox is very eager to get things back on the move. It's a good raking crossfield ball to find Mitchell. Now in towards Curry. He just tried to contort his body to bring the ball under control, and it didn't pay off for him. Kenny now looking to show off his distribution. It's not bad either. Michio's cross doesn't quite match. Now Cox and Askew measuring the cross as it stands up towards the back post from Askew. The Michio will strike from a long way out. Well, cross or shot, I'll let you decide. Still they retain it here, St George. Askew is forced to go back and reloads. Monahan Vaika. Grimaldi has Mpota Herring after him. Cool as you like, though, in playing out Michio. And now Curry between the lines, receiving and clipping it in. It should be comfortable for Jablonski. And, well, he made a bit of a meal of it, in all fairness there, young Harry Jablonski. Perhaps didn't realise just how much time he had to effect the clearance. Not on his favoured left boot either. It just skewed off his right and behind for another St George City corner. Everyone from St George City except for Luis Curry and Gonzalo Aguelos in the box. Everyone back defending this one for the Mariners. It is Aguelos who will receive short, and he will stand his cross up to the back post as well. Monahan Vaika rising, but doesn't really get the guidance or control or poise on the header required. Jack Kenny's going to come a long way out to take the throw. No, he's not. Happy to leave that and let his teammates take their time to jog back in to their shape. It is eventually hoisted back into play towards Shuriaga. Doesn't quite get his touch right though, Levi Shuriaga. mid-season signing as well for St George from the Bulls. Just his second start of the season as well. As we said, in this week following the red card to Mark McNulty in St George's 1-1 draw with the Wanderers. And Lewis Curry seemingly taking away the legs of Lawrence Taylor. Nothing doing, says the referee. And then Taylor, perhaps with a bit of a get square on Lewis Curry, which does draw the ire of the man in the middle. Just getting a quick look at the replay as well. The contact from Curry on Taylor was certainly in the spirit of the game. The contact from Taylor on Curry, perhaps not so. So a chance here for Aguelos to loft something into the area, and he does. So it is comfortably repelled by Small, but again, only as far as Aguelos. Now Shuriaga trying to twist and turn and escape the attention of Small. Unsuccessful in doing so. It's a good challenge from Geordie Small. Monahan Vaika thought about the big crossfield switch of play in the direction of Forti. Second-guessed himself, though, and just played square for Grimaldi. He'll have it back here. He's got Askew in a handy pocket of space on this near touch line. Instead goes a little wider to Forti, who shifts onto his right and back onto his left and inside. And back to Monahan Vaika. Grimaldi again inviting Porter forwards. Now it is Askew. First time ball inside for Cox. Cox plays inside and finds Clarkson, but his ball forward picked out by Mutakui. Askew, who had body position there ahead of him, Porter. Clarkson chasing back. Kenny just rolls it out to the feet of Monahan Vaika, who goes long immediately ahead of Shuriaga. He tries to get around the outside and then the inside of Mutakui, who doesn't afford either avenue. And then Taylor. Well, Taylor thought he'd won the throw. The Lions person on this near touch line also indicates it as so, but overruled by the referee as Grimaldi sweeps it out to that far touch line for Michio. Curry, first time ball, just trying to clip it around the corner there from Curry. McKibben it will be to affect the clearance. Well, it was certainly a very physical opening 45 minutes or so as well. St George City perhaps looking to take advantage of any potential fatigue for the Central Coast Mariners, as that's a handy looking ball around the corner from Mpota to find Rose, who keeps going here. Rose leaving defenders in his wake. Now Mpota will strike, and it is blocked off by Monahan Vaika. But the tenacity from Jai Rose there, who just kept going and going and going. Perhaps could have pulled the trigger himself, maybe. Monahan Vaika did close down the angle very quickly, and Tom Cox was also applying some pressure. It was Monahan Vaika who blocked the eventual effort from Mpota. But another Central Coast Mariners corner here as we tick into the 60th minute. Nathan Grimaldi it was who was left in the wake of the forward advance of Rose. And he's going to need to leave the field to get some running repairs here as well. So St George again down to 10, albeit temporarily. Can the Mariners take advantage? It's Jablonski it is to hoist it in towards the back post. Kenny spills initially. He can't claim it cleanly. It was right on top of him, and there was a lot of traffic that he had to try and fight his way through as well, Jack Kenny. Took a bit of a whack off the post as well as he was backtracking. Difficult to do as a goalkeeper as well. It's nearly impossible to get any sort of verticality on your jump when you're backpedaling like that. So he's just about survived, really, if nothing else. As St George City return to their full complement of 11 now for this corner. Again, variation on it. McKibben. Square for Schumacher. Head up and clipping it in towards him. Potzer, who nods it on. It was just a little ways ahead of Geordie Small, though. Thrown out by Kenny. To the feet of Askew, who just holds it up and goes back to Monahan Viker. Trying to open up an alternate angle, an alternate avenue forwards. One which is not afforded. Max Miller racing in there to get ahead of Agrelos. Well, they've been certainly resolute defensively today, have the Mariners. They've had a couple of half chances, if nothing else. Mutakui was under a fair old amount of pressure from Curry. Sends it up into the afternoon sky. Cox stretching to reach it. Jablonski with a big up and under, really. And then just nodded over the touchline by Michio. Well, you have to ask the question, how long will it be until St George City perhaps look at making a couple of changes of their own? They do have the likes of course, Paolo Mitri, who scored the opener last time these two sides met, and Peter Kikaris as well, waiting in the wings. Paolo Mitri doesn't mind a goal against the Mariners as well. Also scored against the Central Coast Mariners at Penshurst Park last season in that 2-0 victory for St George. Here's Small, though, for the Central Coast Mariners, looking to wriggle his way into the area. Mariners are asking the question as to whether the contact on Small, which brought him down, was enough to earn a penalty. We've already been to the spot in that penalty area once so far today. And on that occasion, we won't see a second. On that occasion, at least. Here's Miller, able to turn and try and get around the outside of Clarkson. Clarkson just stands him up, though, and takes it off his toe. Small will retrieve it. Back on halfway with Mutakui via Paragali. Near touchline now. Jablonski sizing up his opponent. Opting just to retain possession. High percentage pass there. Keeping their composure and just being patient in possession, waiting for any avenues to appear, waiting for any holes to perhaps appear. This time Paragali looking for the big switch of play in the direction of Taylor. Nodded down initially by Askew. Now Curry being urged to hold it and await support. Instead he opts to beat Mutakui, but doesn't beat Jablonski, who just inserted himself between the ball and Lewis Curry. And the Mariners emerge free and clear with it. Small helping it on to Miller. And all the way back to Wade in the end. Jablonski hugging this near touchline. McKibben. Oh, that's wonderful feat to beat 1 and 2 from McKibben. You can hear what the crowd thinks about that. Now slaloming inside. And Rose shifting onto his right. Rose. Still going Rose. Now Taylor. Brought down, is he? No. Well, you can hear perhaps exactly what the crowd thinks about that one here at Plume Park. The referee very quick to wave that one away. The challenge, on Lawrence Taylor. It seemed like he had his legs fair and true taken away from him. Sliding in was Monahan Viker. Well, the argument could be made that he got a piece of the ball there. This time it's Taylor sliding in on his opposite number 23 as it's swept in towards the penalty spot by Dominic Cox, brushing off the head of everyone and no one able to make any real sort of meaningful contact on it. Well, that I'm sure will be yet another talking point to add to the history of this fixture. It will be debated long into the evening, I'm sure, but it might not matter if Taylor can get on the end of this. Monahan Viker gets there a long way ahead of him. But he can't really get his clearance right there, Monahan Viker. Just clipped into touch, and it was a tired-looking clearance, really, from Monahan Viker, who could have been penalised just moments ago for sliding in on Lawrence Taylor. But on we go. It's Rose now, weaving into the area to the byline. Sliding in this time is Grimaldi. It's desperate last-ditch stuff, and you have to get those ones right. Grimaldi certainly did, on that occasion at least. But it is another Mariners corner. They're well and truly knocking on the door here now. It will be Jablonski to take. Outswinging delivery from Harry Jablonski is flicked clear by Askew, but only clear as far as Schumacher. Cross is stood up towards the head of Mutakoi, who will nod it back towards Small. Hooked clear by Cox. It's going to come straight back at them, though. It's Mutakoi. It's offside. Well, the restart delayed for now at least. We have a Mariners player. It looks like Lawrence Taylor down, maybe needing some treatment here. He's been so heavily involved over the last couple of weeks, of course, Lawrence Taylor, in the engine room, really at the heart of so much of what the Central Coast Mariners do. He does offer this wonderful metronomic sort of value in the middle of the park as well. We used to say, of course, the same thing about Lucas Scicluna, who has moved on to pastures new. And Lawrence Taylor has well and truly taken up that mantle, and perhaps then some. He's gotten through an absolute mountain of work, of course. This is their third game in the last 7 days for the Central Coast Mariners, in action down at Rockdale last weekend, and then having to travel to Marconi on Wednesday. Finally able to return to the creature comforts of their home venue here this afternoon. And we are going to see a change as Lawrence Taylor is applauded off the field. Deservedly so. And he will take his leave for the afternoon for the final 20 or so minutes here. Another chance to get a good look at Flynn Richards. as it's eventually restarted, or the restart eventually taken by Kenny. Richards sends it forward with his first touch, giving Rose something to chase. Bouncing ball could have been awkward for Kenny. And he made it look comfortable as. Now, Corey, it's picked up before it reached him by Miller. Only initially, though. The cross swung in towards Shuriaga. Cox slipping. And now Richards carrying it forward. And oof, that's, let's say, agricultural from Brodie Clarkson. The latest entrance into the referee's notebook. I dare say Flynn Richards perhaps may have seen the contact coming. But he has an absolute live wire, is Richards. Most fouled player per minutes played, I'm led to believe, is Flynn Richards. And that's another one there. But it's City on the march forward through Corey. Looking to sweep it out towards Agrelos. It's a long way ahead of Gonzalo Agrelos. Too far ahead in the end. Well, 2 changes so far in this one for the Central Coast Mariners, as we said at halftime. Noah Peacock withdrawn. Jordan Small getting 45 minutes today as he returns to full fitness. I'll get my words out eventually. As this goes over the top, and Wade's got an awful puzzle to figure out. Figure it out he does. Quite easily, really. It was Louis Corey that was keeping him honest. Wade able to perform some mathematical calculations there, making sure that he had all the geospatial awareness of a NASA scientist. Aware enough to know that he could await the ball to meet him in the penalty area. Good looking crossfield switch of play that is for Miller. Inside for Rose now. Looking to isolate Grimaldi and go around Grimaldi. He does, just about. His cross is blocked. And another Mariners corner. Well, we just asked the question, of course, when will St George go to their bench? They've got 2 waiting to come on now. The flag was up for a moment on that far touchline, but cardinal sin, in my opinion. Changes during your own defensive corner, and it looks like Manny Spanidakis has perhaps thought better of it. Wisely so. Meanwhile, Michael Paragali's inserted himself into the action here, potentially. As the corner is hoisted in again towards the head of Mpota, it's flicked half clear. Mutakoye will retrieve. Now McKibben measuring the cross to the back post. Mpota rising. It's off the back of the head of Maginga Mpota, really. Comfortable for Kenny with a good looking release this as well from Jack Kenny. Not good enough though to beat Max Miller. St George might now look to take the opportunity this break in play to make that double change, or will they? Well, asked and answered, they will not. Asked and re-answered, they will indeed. Lewis Corey withdrawn. Missed from the spot, of course, as we said, in the opening 30 seconds. Paolo Mitri, as we posited earlier in the piece, introduced for the final 15 or so minutes here at Pluim. What a weapon to be able to bring off the bench, of course, Paolo Mitri. But it's the Mariners now who advance over halfway. Richards looking to release Mpota. Couldn't quite stick the pass. Richards hasn't given up on it, though. He's still applying the press there. Michio and Cox. Cox, well, that's maybe a tired-looking pass, really. Now it's Rose, again one-on-one with Monahan Vaika. Askew joining the party and able to deal with it just about. Foul by Shumba Mutakui as he goes through the back of Shuriaga. That other change for St George City was the other one that we posited as well earlier in the half. Peter Kikeris introduced. The former Mariner returning to Pluim Park. No stranger to this venue. Spent a number of years in the academy setup and a handful of games in the A-League side as well. Here's Mitri. Shifts it wide to 40. Keeps his feet. Now Askew. Richards not giving him an inch, though. They're forced to go back to halfway. Grimaldi. Michio. Good touch to take him inside of Small. First time pass from Mitri out to Kikeris. Bounces kindly enough for Richards to emerge with it. Tries to play it into the path of Rose. Monahan Vaika was alert to it. His first time ball finding Paolo Mitri. Askew. Inside now for Clarkson. Mitri will pick it up and strike as well. He's capable from that sort of range, but it's blocked off on the way through. Richards just left it a little short of Jablonski. Clarkson able to hoist it into the area. Repelled initially by Small. Mitri thinking about the strike. Doesn't get the opportunity to pull the trigger, though, as he goes down. And now the Mariners looking to get forward through Richards, who will once again draw the free kick. Well, that's two already by my count. Free kicks against Flynn Richards. Perhaps three, actually. Player who's very aware of what's happening around him. That awareness not on display from the Mariners, though. It's a cheap turnover. Oh, how's he tracking back the work rate of Ty McKibben there? Helped on by Small. Now it's Rose. Wants to get at his defender here. Shimmying his way inside. McKibben. Small. Back with Miller. And all the way back on halfway. Paragali. Again, the Mariners happy to be patient here. And having to be patient as well. Miller. Well, nothing ongoing forward, so back they go, the Mariners. Schumacher. Fizzed into the feet of Rose, who in turn nutmegs the referee. Now Jablonski. Hoists it in towards the head of Mpota. It just takes a touch off the legs of Small, though, and behind it will go. Kenny sends it long towards Kikeris. Jordan Small, though, racing back and just steals it fair and true off the toe of Kikeris. Lucas Villela readying another couple of changes on the Mariners bench as well. They've still got the likes of Ahmed El-Helu, Logan Sandbrook and Gus Reid all available. Sandbrook and El-Helu certainly more the attack-minded of those three options mentioned. Gus Reid perhaps an option to look to secure things centrally, maybe in place of someone like Ty McKibben or Kai Schumacher, who have got through, as we said, An absolute mountain of work and then some over the last week. Kikeris watching it all the way over his shoulder. Has Miller for company. Has Miller blocking his cross as well. It's kind for Mitri though, and Cox. We'll spread it to Monahan Vaika, who will stride forwards. Now, so some half-hearted appeals really from the St George City faithful. After the contact from Mpota, the referee says nothing doing, and St George City will go to their bench. Another double change about here. Lewis Mitchell will take his leave, as will Levi Shuriaga, who's cut perhaps a bit of a frustrated figure at times up top. Matthew Wabi on. So he'll take his place on the right of that back four. Dakota Raskew, it looks like, will move across to the left side of that defence. And a double change for the Mariners as well. Ahmed El Helu will take his place up top. Logan Sambrook, of course, also introduced as well. William Kunis, the other change for St George City, on in place of Shuriaga. Will take his place up top as Jablonski trying to flick that run around the corner. Wabi will cut it out. Hoisted in by Warby. Hoisted straight back out by Paragali, giving El Helu something to chase. El Helu making his presence very clearly known against Monahan Vaika. That's going to be a fascinating contest between the two of them for the final 10 minutes or so here at Pluim. Sambrook able to dig it out and find Small, looking for the return pass here as well as Sambrook. Grimaldi read it all the way. Here's Warby. Green grass in front of him. Plenty of space to advance into. Now 40. Clipped in centrally. Nodded clear by Paragali. Richards. It's a good footballing challenge there from Matthew Warby on Richards. Talk about making your presence known. Here is Warby again. Richards watching him all the way. Able to block the cross initially. And then Jablonski will complete the challenge. Easily picked out, though, by Monahan Vaika. Clarkson. Kunis couldn't quite dig it out. It's Kikeris now. Challenged by Miller and won by Miller. And now Jordan Small advancing. McKibben looking for that raking crossfield ball there, McKibben, but it's tired legs. It's a tired-looking pass, really. Just handing possession back to St George City. Askew. Kikeris. Slaloming and then clipping. One towards the far post. Joel Wade racing off his line to claim. Well, it's tense here at Pluim Park. Both sides, both sets of supporters so acutely aware of the stakes. We can even look to perhaps try and bring you some updates from elsewhere around the grounds as well. Still deadlocked here, of course, at Pluim, as it is at Landon Stadium between Blacktown and the Wanderers. Marconi lead Manly by 3-1, and well, for Sutherland, it's all going so wrong. Currently down by 5-0 against Apia. Here's Faulty for St George. Weaving his way through traffic and then weaving his way into Kai Schumacher. Sandbrook does well to get it out from under his feet and looks to release El Helu. Picked out by Askew. And there's the raking crossfield pass from Monaghan Vaker. It's Kikeris. Explosive burst of pace and pulled into the area, and it's just behind Jesse Forti. Chances have been few and far between in this second half in particular, and I told you I was looking forward to the contest between Monaghan Vaker and El Helu. El Helu winning the free kick there. Two absolute competitors, both very much up for the physical contest. The Mariners have got one more change prepared. They may just have to deal with one more chance before they look to make it, as Mitri looks to spray it forwards. Now it's left a long way short of Warby, and Richards able to stride forwards. Maybe looking to go through the gears a bit here. Shifts onto his right. Richards off the post! Unbelievable! Flynn Richards a matter of millimetres away from breaking the deadlock. So late here at Bloom. Another one, Flinny, is the cry from the crowd here at Plume. And, well, I wouldn't bet against it being done. It is by no means done, I should say. Not even close. As it's spread out towards Richards again. What late drama do we have on the cards here today at Plume? We said this is a fixture with no end of late drama, as the Mariners do make that change. Ty McKibben withdrawn for Angus Reid. There were, in that 3-2 win last time these two sides met for St George, there were 2 goals after the 80th minute. In the 1-1 draw at Penshurst last season, St George equalised in the 87th minute. In the semi-final here at Plume in 2022, Jacob Kresnar opened the scoring in the 92nd minute before Jacob Prajar equalised in the 93rd, as this is clipped over the top towards Sambrook. Sambrook now, maybe sizing up the shot instead, lays it off to Angus Reid. His first touch is looking to give it straight back to Sambrook, but only picks out Monaghan Vaker. And St George City look to counter-punch immediately through Kikeris, bearing down on goal. Sliding in is Paragali to great effect. Well, you can't look away for a second here inside the final 3 minutes of the regulation 90 at Plume. An excellent concentration on display, in particular there from Michael Paragali, timing that challenge to perfection. The referee's got a bit of sorting out to do in the middle as well. Before the corner will eventually be swung in. Kikeris to swing it in towards the near post, and well, that's not the finest of deliveries from Peter Kikeris. He would certainly be expecting better of himself. Straight into the side netting, and a reprieve for the Mariners. Forward it goes once more. Once more into the breach goes Max Miller, retrieved though by Grimaldi, sent straight forward towards El Helu. His presence there is enough. Schumacher lays it off for Richards, who's come the closest out of anyone throughout the contest here. Into the final minute of the regulation 90. I can just see the board about to go up. It looks like 4 minutes to be added. 4 minutes to see if we can separate these two sides. Jablonski. It's Cox coming across. Reed. Turned around the corner, giving El Helu something to chase again. Mitri will bring it down out of the sky and send it forward for Kunis. Mutakoi there first. Final touch, though, is off Shumba Mutakoi. Five minutes of time it will be added on as we tick over the regulation 90. Cox, little back heel there. The strike from 40. Well, they won't get too many more opportunities like that. And maybe tired legs from Jesse Forti. That's a long way high, wide, and from St. George's perspective, not so handsome. Found himself in a great little pocket of space right on the penalty spot as well. He perhaps expects better. Looking to make amends. Kunis, little layoff there. Mitri. Kunis again. Mitri again. It's a bit of an aimless ball forward, though, from Paolo Mitri. Not something that we're used to seeing from him. Perhaps goes to show the desperation from St. George. They, of course, want to maintain this ever so impressive record that they have over the Central Coast. As we said, St. George have never beaten, or the Mariners have never beaten St. George in 13 meetings. Just 2 draws between these two sides as well. 11 victories for St. George. As they go forward once more, Mutakoi will nod it clear. And can the Mariners find a way to rewrite a bit of history here today? It is St. George on the attack, though. Into the box it goes. Nodded clear. Now it's El Helu who helps it on. That's clever from Ahmed El Helu to open up a little pocket of space there for Reed. Warby getting body position, though, ahead of Reed and sends it forwards. Flicked header from Forti towards Kunis. Richards stretching to try and keep it in play. Unable to do so, though. About halfway through that added 5 minutes. Warby to launch it back in. Flicked on by Cox. Back to goal is Mitri. Little dink over the top and the flag's up on the near touch line. Releasing that pressure valve once more. Wade is just going to have to send this forward. No interest in playing out from the back. Warby steals in there ahead of Richards. Cox will again send it up into the afternoon sky. Mutakoi takes it off the toe of Kunis. They're able to burst into the area, though, here with Kunis. Goes down. Well, hopeful appeals for a penalty, if nothing else. Reed it is to play it into the channel. It was Sambrook rising. It just brushes off the blonde locks of Logan Sambrook, though. It's punch and counter punch here at Pluham. Mitri's little pass. Again, looking to try and release Kunis. Small. Well, El Helu and Askew in a foot race for it. Neither of them are going to reach it, though. It's straight into touch. About 60 seconds or so remain of added time here at Pluham. Is there one last chance that will present itself? Is there another instalment of late drama between these two sides? Don't bet against it. Cox. Forward it goes. Little layoff is a good one for Mitri, but the challenge on Mitri from Reed, initially at least anyway, is better. But it's Warby now for St George. 40. He must be exhausted, Jesse 40. It's Warby supporting. One last roll of the dice, perhaps. Monaghan Viker towards the penalty spots. Diving to head clear. Again was Paragali. Grimaldi. Mitri. Warby in a good-looking pocket of space. Will clip it in towards the back post. And the flag will go up on that far touchline, or this near touchline. So much happening. Indicating a corner for St George. This is it. Hoisted in. Wade comes and gets a good fist to it. Warby will strike. And Warby's strike following through, earning a yellow card for the contact on the head there of, well, guess who? Flynn Richards. Well and truly through that initial 5 minutes added on. It is a minimum, of course, but that will indeed be that here at Pluim Park for match of the round here in round 28 between the Central Coast Mariners and St George City. St George maintain that freakishly impressive record of never having been defeated by the Central Coast Mariners, but the Mariners earn another crucial point in their bid for survival. The result all but extinguishing, perhaps, St George's admittedly faint finals hopes. 6 points behind Sydney United, so not mathematically impossible, but certainly very improbable. For the Mariners, they'll have to wait even that little bit longer to confirm or deny or otherwise their survival, their chances of staying in the top flight. And it doesn't get any easier for the Mariners, of course, as they travel down to the high-flying Spirits FC on Saturday at 5:30 p.m. from Christie Park. It doesn't get any easier for St George City either, as they travel to Lambert Park, where they take on Appia Leichhardt. That one also on Saturday at 6 p.m. In a piece of good news for the Central Coast Mariners, though, the Wanderers have just conceded at Landon Park, so the Mariners may extend their advantage over the Wanderers to 4 points. But that is a wrap from all of us here at Pluim Park. Of course, don't forget, in action at 5 o'clock, the Mariners Academy women's side in action in match of the round against Marconi in the League One women's competition. But from myself, Pete Pryor, I'll see you all next time. It's bye for now. Paolo Mitri back to Pluim Park here on the Central Coast in leafy Lisarow for round 28 between the Central Coast Mariners